Hello. Yeah. Um, so just to introduce myself, my name's Jonah Robinson. For those of you that don't know me, I'm currently in my second year and I'm studying mechanical engineering. The title of my speech today is called Beyond the Curriculum, and within this, I'm going to be discussing the importance of learning about Black history and really the lack of exposure to Black history events. It's okay. Thank you. Yeah, the lack of exposure to Black history events within the British education system, and therefore the need for more inclusive and safe spaces where Black students can learn about Black history. So, why do I think this is important? Well, me personally, and I think many of us have grown up and experienced racism and microaggressions throughout our childhood. If everyone's comfortable, I'd like you to raise your hand if, whether that be in university or in your childhood in general, you've experienced racism. Yeah, so as I expected, so many of us have experienced this. And I think that for me personally, I grew up in an area and went to a school where I was the only person of Black heritage. And due to this, I experienced a lot of racism and a lot of microaggressions. And I think growing up in an environment like this can really affect your self-image, your confidence, and your mindset throughout the rest of your life. And therefore, I feel like raising awareness and giving exposure to have role models within the Black community that you can look up to is so important. Partnering this with the fact that, again, as I spoke about earlier, there's such a lack of exposure to Black role models and Black events that affect us all to this day. And I feel like this is really a recipe for disaster for many reasons. I was doing some research about studies carried out by different organizations, one of which was asking schools in general whether they have modules directly correlated to teaching students about Black history events. And the results were that only 23% of these schools actually had modules and lessons specifically directed at Black history events. And I think considering the amount of us that there needs to be more of an emphasis on teaching about Black history events, such as things like slavery and things like that. I mean, I can remember in school learning all about World War II, and personally, I'm half caste, so I've got white grandparents who served in the war. But within these lessons, they continuously failed to mention the impact that many Black people had and contributed to the war. And I think erasing this part of history is impactful for many reasons, and it creates a pack-like mentality between communities where people feel like because their cultures and their histories don't merge, that they can't really speak to each other. And I feel improving the education system in telling people about how our histories actually merge and how different people from different communities came together to contribute to the success is really important for society. I think that this divide is extremely evident at university. Black heritage students, specifically at the University of Manchester, make up less than 6% of the population. And I don't think this is a coincidence at all. I think it's due to suppression and students and teachers really not being given the opportunity to grow into their full potential. I mean, personally, I've had teachers literally admit to me that they expected less of me due to the color of my skin. And I think that being told things like that from such a young age really, again, lowers your confidence and lowers your self-image. So I think creating spaces within universities where, again, as I said, there's such a divide with culture and lack of exposure to Black history I think creating safe spaces and inclusive spaces where students like ourselves can learn more about prolific events within the Black history, within the Black community is super important. I think, again, as many people have spoke about already, it can reduce that sense of imposter syndrome when coming into an environment like this and prevent isolation, again, when coming to a space where you are a minority. Throughout my childhood, I've always been taught to embrace my culture and be proud to be Black. And I think you all should too. So thank you for your time.